All right, guys. So here's how we're going to do this. So this is a review geared to the Dermpath core exam. What this is not is this is not, as the name implies, this is a review, so it's not the first time learning it. So that's going to be rather rapid. My goal here is essentially for the Dermpath core, it's the 10-10-80 rule. 10% of the questions are going to be pretty easy. They're going to be freebie questions, the type of questions you're going to get in 2 seconds, and use your time for the more difficult ones. 10% of the questions are going to be curve setter questions. Curve setter questions are the ones that are going to be rather difficult. They're going to take up more time, or they're going to ask you some sort of esoteric thing, or it's going to be some new novel finding to see if you're keeping up in research in Dermpath. 80%, the remaining 80% are what I call fair questions. They're not extremely easy, they're not extremely hard, but you're expected to know them. My goal in this review is to rapid fire as much of that 80% into your brains as possible in these 2 hours. So here's how it's going to work. In our normal sessions, I have shown you a slide. And when I've shown you this slide, I've had you describe it, and I've had you come up with a differential, and I've asked you questions, and I'm not going to do that exactly. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe it, and I want you to give me the diagnosis. The first person, anyone can give me the diagnosis. The first person to get the diagnosis gets it right, and then we move on to the next slide. We have around 300 slides to go through, okay? So, and we're going to do it in 2 hours. So I'm going to describe. First person to get the right diagnosis. Shout out. You can shout out any diagnosis you want. Shout out the wrong diagnosis. That's fine. I'm just going to keep describing if it's wrong. First person to get it right, we move on. All right, let's do it. I see a punch biopsy. It looks like it's on either volar skin, or it looks like it's acanthotic erupt. I see serum collections and spongiosis. I see a superficial perivascular infiltrate. I'm looking for eosinophils. I don't need to see them. Occasionally, you may see a few of them. But the pronounced feature here is spongiosis. Serum collection, by the way, is part of the spongiotic dermatitis. I don't see much else going on here.
I mean,
Yeah, like chronic atopic dermatitis.
Atopic dermatitis, eczema, subacute atopic dermatitis, perfect. I see a shaved biopsy. The shaved biopsy shows some psoriasiform hyperplasia. There are layers of stratum corneum with parakeratosis and neutrophils in mounded layers.
psoriasis.
Very good. This is a punch biopsy. There is acanthosis hypergranulosis.
LP.
There's also an infiltrate. It's not just lichenoid, but it's superficial perivascular, and there's also eosinophils here.
Lichenoid
Drug
drug.
induced.
Drug eruption.
Yeah.
Good. I see a punch biopsy. There is a subtle spongiosis, particularly around areas of mounds of parakeratosis. There's also a superficial perivascular infiltrate. Here's a better example of the mound of parakeratosis, overlying spongiosis.
Pityriasis rosea.
Very good. I see a punch biopsy. There's alternating areas of
PRP.
Very good. Punch biopsy. There is a pustule surrounded by spongiosis. And there's a superficial perivascular infiltrate with eosinophils. The spongiotic pustule, superficial perivascular infiltrate with eosinophils. Not much else going on here.
Possibly AGEP.
Good. I see a punch biopsy. There is an acute process because they see acute horn. However, there's a fair amount of necrotic keratinocytes.
Erythema multiforme.
Another acute process with the necrotic keratinocytes, however, there's deep pigment, and there's also
FDE, fixed drug.
very good. Punch biopsy, necrotic keratinocytes, also eosinophils, and deep pigment. Again, not much else going on here.
Arthropod?
The one thing I want you not to fall for is, well, there's one other thing going on here, actually. There's a split.
Oh, BP?
Well, I gave you the exact same description as I did before. BP doesn't really have a whole
drug.
Bolus fixed drug. Fixed drug, bolus fixed drug. Also, by the way, do not fall for the same. They can give you a question where the same answer is correct. And so I don't want you reading into the exam and saying, oh, well, this was the correct answer last question, so therefore it can't be the correct answer. No, it can. The answer is on the slide. Don't read into the test writers. There are almost every core I've had, at least sometimes there was the same correct answer choice twice. So don't be like, oh, it can't be that, because I already answered that. I see a punch biopsy. There is a subtle interface dermatitis with features of pigment dropout. There's also features of follicular plugging, superficial and deep lymphocytic infiltrate, Ariadnexal. Sorry, what is it?
Discoid lupus.
Lupus? What kind of lupus?
Discoid.
Good. There's a more subtle interface dermatitis in this example with a superficial and deep perivascular infiltrate, lymphocytic, and also periadnexal. One might describe this as lupus light.
Like subacute lupus or
Subacute lupus has various different presentations. I don't think you can actually determine that on histology alone. And I don't actually think you could determine this on histology alone, but I can tell you it's not lupus. What is it?
Dermato.
Good. Dermatomyositis. They shouldn't ask you to differentiate lupus versus dermatomyositis. They should give you something more in the stem to lead you away from lupus. I see as punch biopsy, there's interface dermatitis and necrotic keratinocytes. Quite a fair number of them. The necrosis is also involving the adnexal structure, such as this hair follicle. Say it louder.
GVHD.
Punch biopsy, superficial and deep perivascular and periadnexal. We see this kind of replacement of a hair follicle, this column. All of lymphocytes. Low power clues, also superficial, deep perivascular and periadnexal inflammation. Not a whole lot in the way of interface dermatitis. It's more sparse. However, this is more pronounced. There's also looks like there's increased mucin. Actually, a lot of increased mucin here.
Tumid lupus?
Good. There is papillary dermal edema and a superficial, but not deep.
Polymorphous light eruption?
Good. There is also here papillary dermal edema.
Sweets?
Very good. Then you have to describe the neutrophils. Picked right up on it. Again with the papillary dermal edema and acral surface, volar surface rather. More specific. Good. Again with the papillary.
Acrodermatitis enteropathica?
Very good. Fake out papillary dermal edema. It's actually in the granular layer. And there's tonofilaments, vacuolization of the granular layer most pronounced.
Granular hyperkeratosis.
Granular hyperkeratosis, I do not see granules.
Epidermolytic hyperkeratosis?
EHK, very good. Superficial perivascular dermatitis, but when I look closer, I see extravasated red blood cells, neutrophils, neutrophilic dust.
EPD. Oh wait, LCV.
LCV, very good. Parakeratosis over a broad front, a dirty type parakeratosis over a broad front with admixed with neutrophils. I also see a vacuolar interface, vacuolar to lichenoid interface dermatitis with and there's extravasated red blood cells, a lichenoid infiltrate. It's in a wet. Very good.
What was that last one? Sorry.
Leva.
Thank you.
Oh, come on. Don't make me do the song. All right. Ulcer over here. Let's go where there's no ulcer. Neutrophils stuffed in the papillary dermis. That appears why this specimen has been ulcerating. So neutrophils stuffed in the papillary dermis with a punch biopsy.
DH.
Very good. I see a punch biopsy, and we have suprabasilar acantholytic process with a split. It's involving the hair follicle.
Pemphigus vulgaris.
Pemphigus vulgaris, very good. Another suprabasilar acantholysis, but this time we have
Haley.
Very good. Another one, and this time it's a cup-shaped formation with acantholytic disc keratosis. Very good. I see an interstitial process. They're made of histiocytes.
Granuloma annulare. Interstitial.
Yep, interstitial GA. Excellent. Another nodular to interstitial process made up of histiocytes palisading. And this time it's located more deep.
Deep GA.
Deep GA. Another palisaded granulomatous process, also deep, but this time there's a more
Rheumatoid nodule.
very good. Ren zone, facial skin.
Granuloma
Granuloma
facialis.
faciale.
Very good. Paniculitic process, we agree. Okay, so this is clear.
Pancreatic paniculitis.
Pancreatic paniculitis, excellent. Another paniculitic process here. This time it's septal.
Erythema nodosum.
Good. Another paniculitic process. We have these nodular areas of lymphocytes. We also have signs of a interface dermatitis up top. And we also have a superficial
Lupus paniculitis.
This paniculitis, excellent. Another deep process. This time there is an extensive amount of fibrosis deep down.
I was going to say eosinophilia. Not that.
Eosinophilic fasciitis, that is correct.
Oh, work. Okay.
Yeah. One other thing this could be. That fibrosis deep down.
Nephrogenic systemic fibrosis.
NSF will involve the superficial areas as well. The superficial area is clean. One other entity that is a fibrosing or sclerosing process deep down but not up top.
Scleromyxedema.
Scleromyxedema, you will get edema. It's edematous and mucin down below. Here we have sclerosing fibrosis.
Nodular vasculitis.
Nodular fasciitis, you'll see tissue culture macrophages and hemorrhage, which you see here. But
I
that's
mean, MV. Erythema induratum.
erythema induratum is a nodular vasculitis. I don't see any of that here.
Lipodermatosclerosis.
Lipodermatosclerosis is a paniculitic process with stasis changes up top, which I don't see here. How about deep morphia? Morphia profunda?
Okay.
Yeah. So morphia, you got to differentiate morphia profunda. How do you do that? Eosinophils, where are the eosinophils in eosinophilic fasciitis?
Deep down.
No.
Oh, can it be anywhere
Not anywhere.
or nowhere at all?
Isn't
In
it
the
like
blood. Peripheral
Blood.
blood.
Would
Yeah.
would eosinophilic fasciitis have preservation of CD34? Because like how morphia has decreased CD34.
The decrease of CD34, that's all that is due to a decrease in dermal dendrocytes. Theoretically, any sclerosing process that gets rid of dermal dendrocytes can decrease CD34. That's the reason why CD34 is decreased.
Okay, makes sense.
But okay, another fat process. This time we see these crystals.
subcutaneous fat necrosis of renewable or steroid-induced paniculitis?
Yep. And one other, but there's too much inflammation here for it.
Sclerodema neonatorum.
Good. Aha. Stasis changes up top. Now we have it.
Lipodermatosclerosis.
Yes, and arabesque changes down below. Okay. Granulomatous, diffuse granulomatous and nodular process in layer cake fashion. With multiple,
Necrobiosis lipoidica.
Very good. Another histiocytic process with these naked granulomas.
Sarcoidosis. Or you'd have to do everything else but yeah, sarcoidosis
Yes,
is highest.
very good. Okay. Another papillary dermal edema hyalinization, followed by a band-like infiltrate down below.
Oh, lichen sclerosis atrophicus.
Yes, and just so you know, some lichen sclerosis is at hypertrophicus. It doesn't always have to be atrophic. Another example of papillary dermal edema / hyalinization, lichenoid change really down below. And then some areas we can see. Oh, in fact, we've already taken up the square biopsy, rectangular biopsy.
Morphia.
So LSNA with morphia, yeah. Punch biopsy, ectatic vessels up top, stellate fibroblasts, triangular in shape down below.
Radiation dermatitis.
Radiation dermatitis. Another punch biopsy. This time we have necrotic keratinocytes over here. We also have a superficial perivascular infiltrate. Not much going on down here. The process appears to be up here. However, the necrotic keratinocytes appear to be depositing something in the shape of
amyloid. Amyloidosis.
Like,
And what kind of amyloidosis?
Lichen amyloidosis.
Excellent. And in this case, we have another biopsy. We have
macular
this,
amyloid.
I'm sorry?
Colloid milium.
Oh yeah, adult colloid milium.
In colloid milium, you would see clefting of the milium itself in elastic fibers. In this case, what I see is deposition of this hyalinized material.
Nodular amyloid.
Nodular amyloidosis. I wouldn't see it over here. I would
Lipoid
see
prognosis.
Oh yes.
as I haven't shown you the deeper area. It's lipoid proteinosis versus what?
Versus EPP.
And how do you tell the difference?
Lipoid proteinosis is deeper. EPP is more superficial.
Okay, let's go deeper. Is it surrounding the deeper adnexal structures? Hyalinized?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the diagnosis?
Lipoid proteinosis.
Very good. First sign of lipoid proteinosis? First sign.
Cry.
Forest cry. Very good. I see a split. The split has this basement membrane material. Some might describe it as a caterpillar body. I also
PCT.
see this.
PCT, yeah.
Versus
EPP.
Pseudoporphyria.
versus pseudoporphyria. PCT versus pseudoporphyria. What medications cause pseudoporphyria?
And says
Okay. Is there any other things that cause pseudoporphyria other than medications? Or associated
alcohol,
with porphyria or
alcohol, hemochromatosis.
chromatosis, HCV. Okay. Acral surface, feathery-like material.
Gout.
Gout. Area of cartilage.
NH.
Yeah, CNH.
Okay, you just remember, they may not show you this cartilage when they give this to you. They may even not give you the ulcer. Identify what features are the most important. Fibrin, vascular expansion. Fibrin deposition, vascular expansion. If you get the ulcer, that's nice. If you get the cartilage, they're really nice too. What is this? I see a dermal depositional pattern of elastin fibers that are calcified.
PXE.
This is an EVG stain. I see a tortuous channel of
EPS.
elastin material. EPS, very good. You know your mad pores. I'm not going to ask you about that. Okay. I see a increased cellularity and mucin in the top third of the dermis.
Scleromyxedema.
Myxedema. I see increased mucin.
Scleroedema.
Good. I see increased mucin throughout.
NSF.
NSF
Or
is
pre-tibial myxedema. Pre-tibial
tibial
myxedema.
myxedema. Very good. Okay. I see a inflammatory infiltrate around a medium-sized vessel over here.
Oh, the arteritis nodosum.
Very good. This is a punch biopsy. It looks like it's of the scalp. I see 3 hairs all in
Alopecia
telogen
areata.
phase.
Oh,
Alopecia areata. Very good. You notice the telogen shift all in sync. And you did not say telogen effluvium. Good job. Okay. This time we're in the transverse section of hair. And in this case, we are at, I see,
AGA.
what?
Are we dealing with AGA?
In AGA, we would expect to see a increase. Well, I see no sebaceous glands. I also see that the hairs are deep down below in this section. And I see perifollicular fibrosis and inflammation around the
LPP.
LPP. Very good.
We're done.
Here is another view where we can see perifollicular fibrosis and inflammation, and it's not involving the interfollicular skin, but it is involving the bulge of the follicle.
Alopecia areata again?
In alopecia areata, I would expect to see the bulbs inflamed, which look fairly fine here. The inflammation is up top. At the bulge, not the bulb.
Syphilitic alopecia.
In syphilitic alopecia, I would at least expect to look for some amount of plasma cells. Also, syphilitic alopecia tends to involve the bulb as well.
This is LPP again.
LPP again. Don't fall for it, guys. They can ask it to you twice. All right. They will do this. I promise you. They're going to give you the same answer twice. Okay. Punch biopsy. Deep down below. Not much going on over here. In fact, there's not a whole lot of signs. Except this.
Argyria.
Argyria. Excellent pickup. Wow. All right. So increased pigmentation in the basement membrane over here of the eccrine glands. Good pickup. Good eye. Mucosal surface. Elastin fibers are staining. Why are they doing that?
Amalgam tattoo.
Amalgam tattoo. Excellent. The amalgam is doing its own little silver stain. Oh, this looks absolutely disgusting.
Crusted scabies.
Crusted scabies. Okay. Shave biopsy. Interface dermatitis over here. Looks like it's getting vesicular. Really getting vesicular over here. And then actually here we have a characteristic finding.
HSV.
Very good. This could be HSV or VZV, by the way. This could be HSV 1, 2, or VZV. When you have this, you actually can differentiate it with the stains. Nodule. These are inflammatory infiltrated cells. These are histiocytic process of giant granuloma. I see organisms. These organisms are round.
Histoplasmosis.
Histoplasmosis is much smaller than this, and they are in
Cryptococcus.
Crypto.
The Latin is capsule. Okay, another biopsy. This time the organisms are very pigmented.
Chromo.
Chromo. This is a GMS stain. In this case, I see the organisms over here.
Blasto.
Well, it could be blasto. I'm not seeing
Oh,
broad-based.
paracoccidio.
Paracoccidio. Excellent. We see
Mariner's wheel.
There's that wheel over there. Very good. Okay. Shave biopsy. Now, in this case, I see these very small
Histo.
organ. Histo
No,
would have a
leishmaniasis.
capsule.
Leishmaniasis marquis
Yes,
sign.
yes, leash. And what's this sign called?
Marquis kinetoplast.
Marquee signs, the kinetoplast line up in that. Okay, good. Okay, you may have noticed this is not a human biopsy. It's a biopsy of a dolphin.
Although,
Lobo.
Okay, here we have a punch biopsy. We can already see our organisms. They have endovesiculation, very pronounced. There is some branching, and the branching is acute.
Aspergillus.
The endovesiculation is pronounced.
Hyalohyphomycosis.
The endovesiculation.
It's pronounced. Zygo?
It's pronounced. What's one species that characteristically has these incredibly large endovesiculations? It's not Aspergillus.
Zygomycosis?
Zygomycosis, what angle do they branch at?
They 45? No, 90.
90. This is acute.
Fusarium?
Fusarium, yes.
Wait, Avi, how do you tell the difference between fusarium and aspergillosis then?
The endovesiculation is pronounced.
But I feel like aspergillosis also can have. Can you point to exactly what you mean by
Okay,
endovesiculation?
sure. Here, see how large this is? How it's pushing the entire thing out? The cell wall? This endovesiculation?
Yeah.
If you see Aspergillus, it's the endovesiculation is gonna look more like this. So Fusarium can make small endovesiculations and giant endovesiculations. Aspergillus can only make these small endovesiculations.
So you really have to find that big one to know.
If you find it, you're lucky. Then you can lead you to Fusarium. If you don't
I mean,
find it, you're stuck with a differential.
It feels kind of unfair for them to give us both as an answer choice as something that looks like this.
If they give you both as an answer choice, they should show you this. They should show you these endovesiculations that are massive. And then you will be able to tell. If they give you something that just looks like this and they give you both answers, then it would not be a fair question. Because it could be Aspergillus or Fusarium then. Right? Shave biopsy, perforaceous scale.
Tinea.
What type?
Nigra?
Sorry?
I was going to say Tinea nigra.
Tinea nigra. In Tinea nigra, I expect to see pigment.
Yeah.
In this case, I see perforaceous scale with a combination of both yeast forms and.
Oh, Tinea versicolor.
Very good.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
Yes. Epidermal and dermal necrosis. Checking my vascular supply to make sure it's okay. I don't think it is. I see something that looks like an organism here. Let's get a better view. Okay, here we are. Definitely an organism over here. It looks more.
Aspergillus. Or Zygo.
Well, you tell me.
Eucorn.
Mucor.
Core, very good. Look at this angle. What angle is that?
90, and is it not septate?
It's so technically it is septate, but it looks less septate. It has a less septated
hollow
look.
or something.
Yeah, it has on H and E, yes. On H and E, it looks like a more hollow, less septated, even though there are septate there. If you stain this with a PAS, it looks more like it almost converts to the look of what you would see in Aspergillus on a H and E if you stain it with PAS. So yeah. And yes, 90-degree angle. So Mucor, zygomycosis. Clearly an organism in here. Muscular. So we have these two.
Oh no.
Dilophilaris.
I'm sorry. What is answer clearly? What is it?
Dilophilaris.
Dirofilaria. Very good. Also, we have another double barrel uterus pointing right at you. However, it's not muscular.
Onchocerciasis.
Onchocercosis. Very good.
Fungiasis.
Fungiasis. And this? Spines.
Oh, myiasis.
Myiasis.
Species.
Oh.
Botfly larva.
Okay, botfly. Look at that. See the spines? The spine. Okay. What do we call larva, by the way, of a fly?
Maggots.
A maggot. Okay. Not a grub. Okay, very characteristic.
Hookworm.
Hookworm. This is way too small to be a hookworm. It's also in the lung, by the way. This is a lung specimen.
Nematode.
Strongyloides.
Noma.
Amyloides, very good.
Strongyloides.
Foreign body depositional pattern. Looks like we're on a face or some area where this would be deposited. You see these
This
black
is
babies.
radius.
What?
Radius.
Radius, very good.
Radia.
Which is calcium hydroxyapatite.
Calcium
Yes.
hydroxyapatite microspheres. Yes.
Paraphenoma.
Paraphenoma, excellent. Location to worry about. Well, number of locations, but where do we not forget to check?
Penis.
Yes. But really anything that people want to enhance can have a paraphenoma, which is often what it's used for. Okay. We see a multinuclear giant cells, foreign body reaction pattern surrounding this foreign material.
Hyaluronic. Oh no. No.
This foreign material is definitely not hyaluronic acid.
The suture?
Suture. What do we call a
Suture granuloma.
a suture granuloma? Okay, aggregates of granulomatous histiocytic process. And also we have this deep pigment. And it's all at this specific layer.
Tattoo.
Tattoo, be more with
Granuloma.
granulomatous tattoo reaction. Exactly. Another histiocytic infiltrate with these spherical areas that have this blue tinge frothy material in them.
This is hyaluronic acid.
This is not hyaluronic acid, nor does hyaluronic acid look like this.
Triamcinolone.
What?
Triamcinolone.
I'm sorry?
Is it triamcinolone?
Triamcinolone doesn't have this blue material that are inside globes.
Sculptra.
There is a grenzone with what?
Leprosy.
Leprosy. What type?
Lepromatous leprosy.
Lepromatous leprosy. And by the way, Sculptra will have these very characteristic foreign body appearance of these irregular jagged-like crystals. So those are called globi. Know the globi. Acral surface. Very small organisms.
Get
over here.
keratolysis.
Due to
Hylococcus.
Sedentary. Yeah.
Sedentarius, very good. These times the granulomas got dressed. And there's caseous necrosis.
LMNF.
Tuberculosis. carcinoma?
LMNF, is this is the right size for LMNF?
No, it's
Too
too
big.
large.
What is it?
Tuberculosis.
Cutaneous tuberculosis, excellent. Elongated reedy
Syphilis.
plasma cells, yes, very good. Subcorneal split with neutrophils. Superficial perivascular, not
Bullous
not-
SLE.
bullous SLE with a subcorneal split, very interesting.
Uh.
And no deep infiltrate
Snagging
with
milk.
neutrophils.
Sneeden Wilkinson.
Sneddon Wilkinson without, first of all, if you believe in Sneddon Wilkinson as a distinct entity, that's one thing. But Sneddon Wilkinson without the spongy.
Pustular psoriasis.
Pustular psoriasis without the
Bullous and
psoriasis.
impetigo.
Bullous
Bullous
impetigo. Very good. Okay, so just a simple subcorneal split with neutrophils. Not much else going on. There's a little bit of infiltrate. Nothing else crazy. Everything else. There's no signs of psoriasis here. No eosinophils. No.
Going over that pretty fast. Why isn't this Snagging Wilkinson?
What is Sneddon Wilkinson?
Like neutrophilic pustular dermatosis or whatever.
Neutrophilic pustular dermatosis. Some people just think it's not a unique entity. But you'll see more spongiosis in Sneddon Wilkinson. You'll see spongiotic pustule, and there'll be some features. Some people think it's just pustular So you'll see other features of those other entities. In this case, the only thing you have is you have a little bit of superficial perivascular infiltrate. And then you have a subcorneal split with neutrophils. That's it. There's no other features of any other entity. Like this is all normal. Like this is normal. We have a pustule. Normal. So it's a subcorneal pustule. That's it. Your number one thing should be, okay, this is like some impetigo. It's impetiginized something. Okay, punch biopsy. Dead reds. Some spongiosis. Eosinophils also here. Here's an EO. Eosinophilic spongiosis with necrotic keratinocytes.
Oh, incontinentia pigmenti.
Incontinentia pigmenti, very good. Kid skin, by the way. Look at the adnexal structures, how close they are together.
Kid.
Okay. Ocrinosis, very good. Okay, looks like we have one last split for the hurrah.
SJSTEN.
SJSTEN, there is not a lot of inflammation, but the split is clean. There's not epidermal necrosis over here. There's a lot of eosinophils, though. Quite a bit of them. If we have any other clear.
Bullous pemphigoid.
Yeah, bullous pemphigoid or BP. It's a clean split. Cyst. Presence of granular layer, keratinaceous material.
Epidermal inclusion cyst.
More cyst.
Tricholemal cyst. Pilar cyst.
More cyst. With little hairs in it.
Dermoid cyst. Or vellus hair cyst. Vellus hair cyst.
Rhabdovirus hair cyst. Very good. More cyst. With sebaceous glands entering and a shark tooth cuticle.
Steatocystoma.
Steatocystoma. More cyst. This time a bunch of gunk in it and the entire hair extruding into it.
Dermoid cyst.
Very good. Would you know? What do you think? What do you know? It's more cyst, but this time it has lymphoid follicular aggregates.
Branchial cleft cyst.
Branchial cleft cyst. More cyst, but this time it has ciliated pseudocolumnar epithelium with muscle. What?
Bronchogenic cyst.
Okay, good.
Thyroglossal duct cyst.
Thyrocolossal duct cyst. You see the thyroid. Okay, good. Thyroid follicles. Well circumscribed nodule with a
Proliferating
some areas-
pilar tumor.
with rolls and scrolls proliferating pilar cyst, proliferating pilar tumors on the differential. In this case, there's salmon-colored areas of these pilomatricoma. You could even see the matrical tissue over there. You don't have to see the matrical tissue. More roll and scrolly differential, and this time it's not that well circumscribed.
Pilomatric carcinoma.
There's no matrical proliferation of tissue, and there's no ghost cells.
Proliferating pilar tumor.
Pilar tumor, very good. Dermal neoplasm, basaloid proliferation, fibrotic stroma. Any clefting is stroma clefting, not tumor stroma clefting.
Trichoepithelioma.
Not that keratinizing. Deep. Trichoepitheliomas are more keratinizing and superficial.
Dermal duct.
Trichoblastoma, very good. Centrally located cystic component with multiple little hairs.
Trichofolliculoma.
Trichofolliculoma. Remember, they love to ask you this on the edge of a trichofolliculoma, so you will not see the cystic component, you'll just see something like this. And you'll have to infer that all the little hairs are coming together.
So the
Fibrous
blue
stroma.
nevus.
What?
I was gonna say blue nevus. That's not it.
Fibrous.
Fibrofolliculoma.
Fibrofolliculoma, very good. Associated with
Burhak Dubé.
fibrous orb. Similar features as prior, actually. But we missed in the planes of section, we missed the follicular infiltrating aggregates.
Oh, discoma?
Trichodiscoma. Also associated with Burkhardt debate.
Trichoadenoma.
Trichoadenoma, very good. Neoplasm with outer root sheath differentiation, warty.
Tricholemoma.
Tricholemoma. Neoplasm, fairly flat from infundibulum to infundibulum, although in reality it's more isthmic differentiation, a bit of a misnomer.
Tumor of the follicular
Tumor of the follicular infundibulum, excellent. Okay.
What was that Spider-Man thing?
That is a meme that I'm skipping in the interest of time. So this deck was originally made by Lisa, by the way. Shout out to Lisa previous. I made the inflammatory deck. Lisa made the neoplastic deck. So I'm just going over the cases. I'm skipping over the meme she put in.
Thank you, Lisa, if you watch.
Yes, thank you, Lisa.
Sebaceous hyperplasia.
I don't think she watches, but thank you. Okay. Sebaceous hyperplasia, very good. It's like another sebaceous neoplasm.
Sebaceous adenoma.
Adenoma you would expect.
Epithelioma.
Epithelioma.
Or otherwise known as sebaceoma.
In this area, it looks like
Jigsaw.
jigsaw, which would be.
Cylindroma.
And in this area, it looks like a non-jigsaw.
Bioadenoma.
Spiroadenoma. So they're on a continuous spectrum. This is a cylindrospiroadenoma. Papillated
SPAP.
pattern. SPAP, very good. And this?
HPAP probably.
HPAP, yes. Lots of mucin with islands of tumoral cells,
Mucinous carcinoma.
which originates from what?
Endocrine or
Producing sweat gland carcinoma. Excellent. At least in some cases. Simple lining.
hydrocystoma.
Biphasic neoplasm with chondroid areas.
Mixed tumor.
Mixed tumor. In the epidermis and
Oroma.
Oroma, very good.
Dermal duct tumor.
In the dermis, only, however, there are solid and cystic components. And when a dermal duct tumor has solid and cystic components, we call it a
Hydroadenoma.
solid and cystic hydroadenoma. Very good. Similar to the previous example, except this is not a trichoadenoma.
Tubular
Apocrine adenoma. Very good. This is a little more revved up, though. There's a lot of adenoid changes and there's cystic areas.
Adenoid cystic carcinoma.
Cystic carcinoma. Here we have a proliferation of normal eccrine and angiomatous proliferation. Tumor sweats a lot. Vessel, eccrine, eccrine. More vessel, more eccrine, more vessel, more eccrine. Everywhere.
It's like eccrine.
It is something.
Eccrine angiomatous hamartoma, yes. Neoplasm, fat vessels.
Angiolipoma.
Lipoma. Neoplasm, well circumscribed. Also has fat, also has vessels. Much more
Angiomyolipoma.
Angiomyolipoma. If this were in the kidney, you'd think of?
Reed.
Reed would be
Tuberculosis.
If this were in the kidney, you'd think of?
Tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis. What's the mutation for Reed syndrome?
Fumarate hydratase.
Fumarate hydratase, very good. This is a neoplasm with fat of these, and you have these small mulberries.
Hibernoma.
Hibernoma.
Hibernoma. Fibrous around fat with calcification.
It's like mobile encapsulated.
Yeah, lipoma.
Encapsulated fat necrosis, yes. High riding fat. Fat is all the way up top.
Goltz.
Goltz.
Nevus superficialis.
Nevus lipomatous superficialis. They probably will not ask you to differentiate those two. If they do, the proliferation of vessels favors Gold syndrome. Fat with very immature lipoblasts. Pleomorphic as hell.
Atypical.
Pleomorphic, something.
Yes, pleomorphic.
Lipoma.
Lipo, it's
Sarcoma.
malignant for sure.
Liposarcoma.
Liposarcoma. So atypical lipomatous tumor is not nearly this pleomorphic. The atypia is near the widened septa more commonly, and there's a very few amount of mitoses. These are crazy immature pleomorphic lipoblasts. There's no way this is benign. Not to say that atypical lipomatous tumor is benign. It's a low-grade liposarcoma, but it looks nothing like that. Not much going on here except just a proliferation of muscle, of smooth muscle.
Hematoma.
Hematoma,
Oh,
very
yeah.
good. Unlike this case where it's not a normal proliferation of increased muscle, but there's abnormal muscle.
Myofibroma.
But I'm sorry?
I was gonna say myofibroma.
Myofibroma has a blue nodular aggregate.
Myofibromatosis.
Myofibromatosis. There's multiple myofibromas. In this case, you have smooth muscle neoplasm. The smooth muscle neoplasm, you can see that with the glycogen snacks. They're not in an increased density. There's no mitotic figures. They may have some atypia, but no mitoses. So a benign smooth muscle neoplasm, as opposed to a benign smooth muscle hamartoma, is
Leiomyoma.
leiomyoma. If there are multiple leiomyomas, what would you think of?
That's Reed syndrome.
That is Reed syndrome, yes. Have to reload this. Every once in a while, when I overload the computer with too many slides.
We're moving too fast.
No, we are not. We'll keep up the pace. All right, well circumscribed and
Angioleiomyoma.
Angioleiomyoma. Excellent, very good. Oh wow, you might be right. We may actually be. Let me really refresh this.
It could be the number of tabs you have too, but who knows?
No, it is not. Never. That's never it. Okay, here we go. We're back in business. Okay. Dermal neoplasm. This time you also see the smooth muscle differentiation. The density is insane. It's very, very compact. Smooth muscle differentiation could be confirmed when we look at the glycogen snacks in each one over here. Very high density. I'm sorry?
Myosarcoma.
Myosarcoma, very good. There would be a few mitotic figures in there. In this case, I don't know what happened to the slide or how it was scanned, but in any case, there is a interstitial fibrohistiocytic proliferation with collagen ball trapping at the sides and increased
Dermatofibroma.
There is a increase in fibrosis with corkscrew-like fibrocytes. All the ducks are in a row.
Fibromatosis.
Fibromatosis, ramen noodle sign of Bed Fulton. Yes. What are the main fibromatosis we need to know about?
Dupterian's contracture.
Dupuytren's, yes. And
That's the only one that I think.
Dupuytren's, Lederhose, Peyronie's. To name three, we have plump fibroblasts and multinucleated giant cells, and some of them have osteoclast-like giant cell appearance. Jagged.
Tumor of the tendinous sheet.
Giant cell tumor tendon sheath. A fibroma with a very classical appearance. Should immediately recognize this.
Sclerotic fibroma.
Sclerotic fibroma. Seen in
Cowden syndrome.
Cowden syndrome. Dome-shaped angiomatous proliferation with fibrosis.
Angiofibroma.
Angiofibroma. We have a subcutaneous nodular process. In this case, there are fibroblasts with a very distinct appearance and hemorrhage, red blood cells. In this case, it's very clear. We have these elongated
Nephrogenic systemic fibrosis.
nephrogenic systemic fibrosis is a fibrotic process. This is
Yes,
very
true.
these are very loose, and there's hemorrhage.
Nodular fasciitis.
Nodular fasciitis, yes. Clearly malignant neoplasm. Infiltrated the
DFSP.
fat. DFSP. What is the mutation? What is the translocation?
1722.
1722.
And what's the proteins?
Collagen 1A1 and PDGFB.
Good. How do you detect it, by the way?
Fish. Fish.
Good. Shave biopsy. Smooth muscle. Well, not
AFX.
necessarily smooth muscle. We don't know because there's atypical
AFX.
AFX. Very good. This is nothing. Okay. Neoplasm. Spindle cell differentiation, but they're very
Neurofibroma.
fibroma. Very good. Capsule with subcapsular edema.
Schwannoma.
Schwannoma. And what is this area called?
And
Antony
Hypercellular.
A. Antony A
Antony
tissue.
A makes Vera K. Very good. In this case, we have these multiple areas of very myxoid whirly type of neoplastic process. And in some areas, these nuclei
Cellular
have,
neurothecoma.
I'm sorry?
The cellular neurothecoma? No.
Close, but these nuclei have, what do they have in them? First of all, the nuclei have cytoplasmic herniations in them. There's multiple world areas with fibrosis around it.
there's a myxoid neurothecoma.
Yes, this is a true dermal nerve sheath myxoma. It stains positive for
S100.
S100. What about cellular neurothecoma? What's that going to stand for?
S100.
Everyone talked at the same time.
S100A6.
S100A6. What about S100?
Negative.
Negative. Very good. Quite the neoplasm over here. We do see these small cells with
Merkel cell.
Merkel cell carcinoma. How is this going to stain, by the way? What's your workup?
A lot of
CK
things.
chromogramming, advertising.
Okay, CK20 synaptophyte.
Negative for TTF1.
Negative. If it's positive for TTF1, what are you thinking?
Lung cancer.
Small cell lung. Okay, good. That's why we get it. All right. Well, this neoplasm is quite characteristic. In fact, you see some
Xanthoma.
up top. You can also see these characteristic little areas over here.
Granular cell tumor.
Granular cell tumor. What are these things called?
Bodies of million.
Milan something.
Milan.
Milan. Okay. Neoplasm, clearly, we don't like it. It looks malignant. It has a characteristic pattern. I might describe this as herringbone. We're in our herringbone differential. Has a more myxoid area over here. What is your herringbone differential?
Fibrosarcoma, but
That's one thing. That's the least common thing you're going to see in a herringbone differential, by the way. What's the most common thing that we see in Dermpath with true herringbone?
Fibromyxomatous. DFSP.
Okay, fibromyxomatous, that's a good thing to mention. And then what else do you have to think about?
They're like the undifferentiated pleomorphic sarcoma.
Undifferentiated pleomorphic sarcoma look way more atypical than this. Very rare to see it like that. Come on, what's your differential? So, malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumor, which is what this is, by the way. Malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumor. So, that's probably the other main thing to keep in mind. Fibrosarcomatous DFSP is the other. Synovial sarcoma is another one. Angiomatous proliferation. Angiokeratoma, very good. Another vascular proliferation, but there's no blood in it. And there's a simple
Lymphangioma.
lining. Lymphangioma. Very simple angioma over here.
Hemangioma.
Yeah, cherry
Cherry
angioma.
and
This vascular proliferation has septated lobules.
Myogenic
Now-
granuloma.
Myogenic granuloma. Mucosal surface, very large vascular process.
Venus Lake.
Venus Lake. Okay, very monomorphic cells in this dermis.
Tumor.
Glomus
Yeah.
tumor.
Glomus tumor. So here we have a papillary proliferation with plump
Plum
endothelium.
tumor.
I'm sorry?
It's a IPAT, like a intravascular papillary and
Endothelial
endothelium.
hyperplasia or Masson's, yes. Lymphoid aggregates with eosinophils and a vascular proliferation.
Epithelial hemangioma.
Epithelial angioma, not epithelial hemangioma. And what is the other name?
It ends with eosinophils. I forget, like lymphangioma with
ALHE, angiolymphoid hyperplasia with eosinophilia. So epithelial hemangioma, not epithelial hemangioendothelioma. Epithelial hemangioma, or ALHE is the other. Always know the other name. They can ask you either name. So ALHE. Okay, a lot of blood here and a lot of hemosiderin. There's also a vascular issue over here with quite these pronounced endothelial cells. And probably hammer these endothelial cells in with a hammer.
Hobnail
Hobnail
hemangioma.
hemangioma, and there's and what is the other thing called now that we see all this hemosiderin? The other name?
Targetoid hemosiderotic something.
Targetoid
I would
hemosiderotic.
recognize it if I saw it.
This trabeculated area of very atypical interconnecting areas of atypical vascular spaces with these endothelial cells. Sorry, what?
angiosarc.
Angiosarcoma. Especially when you see like these atypical cells falling into the vascular space. Got to think about angiosarc. Continuing on a little theme over here. Slit-like spaces. Atypical vascular spaces surrounding pre-existing structures.
Is this the microvenular hemangioma?
Microvenular. This is way too poorly formed for that, and they don't
Yeah.
surround pre-existing structures. See, this is a vessel around a vessel. See the endothelial cells around here, and there's a vessel inside a vessel over here. Here too. Here too. There's also blood over here.
The Kaposi sarcoma? No.
Kaposi sarcoma. And what's this sign called?
Promontory.
Promontory sign.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, can you go back and show us the promontory sign again?
Sure. This is actually a very classic. I'll put this in a textbook. Okay. Do you see how these cells over here are endothelial cells? They're lining it.
Yes.
Yes. And do you see how these cells in here are also lining a vessel inside here?
Yeah.
So it's a vessel within a vessel.
Mm-hmm.
So this vessel proliferated. There's a vascular proliferation around pre-existing vessels. And it could also surround pre-existing ecranuli, surrounding pre-existing structures, slit-like spaces. So the pre-existing structure is jutting out into this area, like a promontory. That's why it's called a promontory sign. Same thing here, by the way. Here's another one. There's an endothelial cell over here. It's lining this space, and here's the pre-existing structure. That's the promontory sign. Other features, you see hemosiderin or hemorrhage in Kaposi sarcoma. Here's more of it. And in fact, this is one of the clearest textbook cases of promontory signs that, I mean, it's never this good in real life, but it is that good on the exam, fortunately. Volar surface, much more dense this time. Still, we have atypical silt-like vessels in some areas in blood. Some of these erythrocytes
Yeah.
are being digested. What?
KS again?
KS again, nodular KS this time. Massive neoplasm. Very clear cell, no connection to the epidermis.
This
Renal
renal
cell.
cell?
Carcinoma.
Yes, and look at the hemorrhage as well. See the hemorrhage over there? Renal cell carcinoma. Okay, seb-like architecture, but we do see a neoplasm here. These are, we see clear pink cells with pigment, and here we see it looks like they're blowing up. Someone's talking, I can't hear them.
What are other countries saying?
So the major Arab states, they don't want us to rule Gaza, but they also don't see mass displacement.
Not the thing you want to put on right now. Okay. I muted. All right, so I got to manually mute people. All right, so
sarcoma?
what?
Oh wait, no.
What is it?
Well, I said clear cell sarcoma.
Well, clear cell. Well, the problem with so there, you're noticing clear cells. There's a clear nevus here, though.
Is it like
This is benign.
okay, it's a melanoma subtype.
Melanoma of some type. Where's the melanoma?
I don't know. Okay, now you're confusing
This
me.
all looks benign. Like this is clearly a benign nevus.
Is it balloon cell
Oh,
nevus?
nevus.
Balloon cell nevus? Yes. You could have balloon cell nevus, balloon cell melanoma, and in balloon cell melanomas, the balloon cells themselves can sometimes look atypical, or you can look to see other features of melanoma, which we don't have here. Clear cell sarcomas, the whole thing is clear and it looks like a clear version of a melanoma. And by the way, what do they stain for clear cell sarcomas, real quick?
Dox10, S100, MITF.
Dox10, S100, yes, and keep going. Melanae, all of the melanocytic markers.
Melanocytic.
Except with the possible exception of PRAME, but that's not going to help you. So how do you differentiate?
Differentiate from what?
For melanoma.
Oh, from regular melanoma?
Well, that's the whole point, right? Because clear cell sarcomas stain almost identically to melanomas. They stain for the melanocytic markers. How do you know it's a clear cell sarcoma versus melanoma? What are you going to do? Is there any other study we can do?
Like genomic, like fish? No.
Fish, yes. What are we looking for in clear cell sarcoma?
I think it's just like a mutate, like a chromosome rearrangement. Like there's 11,
Yes, it's a translocation sarcoma. What translocation is it?
1122.
1222.
1222, yeah. Yeah.
Which would be the WSR1 and ATF1 genes. There's a less common one, by the way, 1322. That's the EWSR1 CREB1 translocation. Either one of those can give you a clear cell sarcoma. They ask that, by the way. All right.
Halo
Okay.
nevus.
I'm sorry, what's the
Halo nevus?
Halo nevus? Very good. And in this case, we have the dermal process has its own fibrotic stroma, pigment, spindle cells, elongated dendritic-like cells with these pigment in them. At this point, I'm not sure how much more description I can give you. It's a textbook description of the entity. So what has its own fibrotic stroma with spindle cells and dendritic-like cells that have pigment in them?
Like a blue nevus?
A blue nevus. Yes.
Would this be a deep penetrating blue nevus?
Not at all. Deep penetrating blue nevus has a very different character.
Or what
What
type of
is
blue
it?
nevus would
It
this
has-
be?
This would be a common blue nevus. It's just a common blue. Deep penetrating nevi have a little bit of spitzy changes up top. They have more they have some epithelioid portions to them, some larger cells. You can also have some combined nevi, but this is just a common blue. This nevus
What's Nevis?
Fitz nevus, very good. What's this, by the way?
Camino body.
Camino body. What is a Camino body?
It's like a basement membrane.
Yeah, type 4 collagen. Okay,
I
good.
have 4 columns.
And this is a
Melanoma.
okay, melanoma is on the differential. If it's a melanoma, what kind of melanoma is it going to be?
Like superficial spreading. Or inside too.
Because look at this. This looks like any of this. This is a scar.
Oh, this is a
This is
recurrent nevus.
recurrent nevus.
Recurrent nevus versus recurrent melanoma. If it's a melanoma, it's going to be a melanoma that's recurrent. If it's a nevus, it's going to be recurrent nevus. It's very hard to tell because once this area gets all scarred up, and once a nevi gets scarred up, the reproliferation looks like a melanoma. So what do you do at this point? What's the most reliable thing you can do?
Get the previous path.
Get the prior. Yes. If the prior is a nevus, it's probably nevus. The prior is a melanoma, probably melanoma. What else can you do?
Talk to the clinician.
Look, right now, what else can you do?
Oh, look at areas outside the scar.
If it's outside the scar, or rather even the prior obvious nevus that's already here. And the answer is no. It's like, here's the boundary. Here's where the scar actually ends over here, and it's gone. So it's probably recurrent nevus, which is what this is. Recurrent nevus. Okay. Touch biopsy. More dendritic pigmented things, and they're very deep. Okay, so it's in the dermis. There's melano and a lot of it. We have a name for that now. So I might call it dermal melanocytosis.
Mongolian spot.
Okay, and what else? What does that encompass now? What are all the entities?
Oh, nevus of
Nevus of
Ova.
Ito. But Ito and Ota would be more superficial, right?
Oda, Ito, I've seen examples where they can be just like this.
Wow.
Oda, Ito, Hori, Sun, any of the dermal melanocytoses, as the name implies, have dermal melanocytoses. Okay. In this case, we have what kind of skin?
Mucosal.
Mucosal skin with a little bit of pigmentation and no obvious melanocytic hyperpigmentation.
Melanocytic macule.
Or melanotic macule. Now, in this case, we have an incredibly asymmetric proliferation of cells with pagetoid spread pagetoid cells in pagetoid pattern. Pigment invading lymphocytes. Fairly brisk in some areas. Very broad lesion.
This feels like a melanoma.
This is the classic melanoma.
Yeah.
In this area, there is quite a bit of solar elastosis. However, over here, the solar elastosis is gone.
There's no
And there's an
plastic
increased
melanoma.
What?
There's no plastic melanoma.
There's no plastic melanoma. You know, there's an in situ component here. There's also conspicuous lymphocytic aggregates. Very subtle, in some areas not subtle. So up top, where the beautiful new collagen is, there's a proliferation in situ component of the atypical melanocytes. But the key is to recognize down below. So one hint is the beautiful new collagen sign. The other hint, these aggregates of conspicuous aggregates of lymphocytes. So this, and so how are you going to stain this? What are you going to stain the how are you going to light up the desmoplastic component?
The S100 and SOX 10.
S100 SOX 10, very good. Nodule, ulcerated.
Nodular melanoma.
Nodular melanoma. You see the in situ component over here.
Seb.
Very good. That's your freebie giveaway. This one has these clusters of cells that look like each other.
Almost sub.
Seb. Immediate recognition.
You're still like Cantoma.
Cantoma, very good. Okay.
Elvin.
Yes, very good. Ilvin. And then in this case, we have this endophytic proliferation. Some would call this a crateriform type of appearance. Glassy like keratinocytes.
AA.
Keratoacanthoma, excellent. Basaloid proliferation with cystic areas. Tumor stroma split.
Micronodular BCC.
Micronodular BCC with all of this
No.
cystic.
Vestibular cystic.
Trichoblastoma
BCC. Oh.
So tumors, so you have the palisade and you have the tumor stroma. You're thinking BCC. You're correct. The key is to pick up on the infundibular cystic component. Put it all together. Infundibular cystic BCC. Your differential for this would be? If this wasn't a basal and it wasn't tumor stroma?
Right. Would trichoblastoma be under differential?
Well, I mean, that is on differential. It's not the closest thing to differential. Basaloid follicular hamartoma would be the closest thing on this differential. But yes, a keratinizing neoplasm with a follicular type would make you think of trichoblastoma. But keep infundibular cystic BCC versus basaloid follicular hamartoma in your back of your mind. In this case,
Fibroepithelioma of pincus.
Fibroepithelioma of pincus, pink strands, blue buds, originating in multiple areas, very fiber cords interlacing. A papule over here.
Is this like a superficial acral fibromyxoma?
Superficial acral fibromyxoma. Well, the issue with that is, well, I'm not seeing the myxoma part, and I'm not seeing the. It is superficial acral, but it's a papule. And it's
Digital fibrokeratoma.
Digital fibrokeratoma, yes. Looks like it's starting to make a Colorado over here. Even. Look at that architecture. As opposed to this, which has nerves.
Supernumerary digits.
As opposed to this, which is a papular-like area, and in this case has these blobs of red.
Infantile digital fibro.
What do these stand for, by the way?
Most
Smooth muscle actin. Yes, very good.
yeah.
Okay. Clear neoplasm, myxoid, stroma, and these
morpheoform BCC.
Morpheoform BCC. Some would call this an infiltrating BCC, but yes. Okay. So,
Syringoma.
Syringoma, yes. As opposed to this, which has cysts up top, very infiltrated.
MAC.
Macrocystic adnexal carcinoma. As opposed to this, which also has cysts, but it's
desmoplastic trichoepithelioma.
Desmoplastic trichoepithelioma, very good. Now there's some areas over here, but this is kind of normal actually. This is just dilated apocrine glands. However, this is not normal. Proliferation of pagetoid cells in pagetoid pattern. They're crushing the basal layer, but not destroying. What?
Bowens then.
Bowens, they're not really.
Bowenoid Paget.
Okay, Bowenoid Pagets. Or Bowenoid extramammary Pagets disease.
No, I'm gonna have.
These are blue tinged. Blue tinged. They're not. Look at how they are at the basal layer. They're pushing into the basal layer, but not destroying it.
You can. All right. I'll just get it from other places. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, what's it called? What is this?
This is extramammary Pagets.
Got it.
And by the way, you can tell it's extramammary Pagets because what's the site?
Genital skin.
Axil looks like, yeah, something like axillary genital skin. But yeah, so it's Pagets. They're not going to ask you about Pagets of extramammary Pagets. By the way, what do you stain? How do you stain Pagets?
CK7, CK20,
Okay.
UCF.
CEA.
CK7, okay. CK7, CK20, you're doing your ER, your PR, your HER2. By the way, in what cases does extramammary paget's actually stain for CK20 and may not, and not just CK7?
Is that colon?
What?
Colon?
Colon. Well, you're not going to do a colon biopsy in Dermpath, so where would you see it?
Like anogenital?
Yeah, around the anus. So extramammary patch disease of the anus, about 20% of those cases stain positive for CK20, not just CK7. Okay, very good. So we have a punch biopsy with quite a bit of histiocytic process, but also eosinophils. That's one clue. So you see eosinophils and not just the histiocytes. And then when we look at these histiocytes, we can see some of them have this characteristic appearance.
Reticular histiocytoma.
In reticular histiocytoma, you would have a two-toned appearance, and each one of those histiocytic processes would be in their own lacuna. And you usually don't see a lot of eosinophils in reticular histiocytoma. It's actually one thing that should lead you away from it. But there is another histiocytic process that you do.
H.
I'm sorry?
LCH.
Yes. Langerhans cell histiocytosis and JXG have the eosinophils commonly, and in some cases you can see the reniform. So how are you going to stain it? The reniform nuclei. How are you going to stain these, by the way?
CD68, C1A1, CD207, which is Langerhans.
Langren. So okay, Langren, CD1A, S100, by the way, you're both going to stain for that too. And know your staining patterns, by the way. So how does Rose-Idorfman stain?
CD68, but like not for S100 or C1A1.
Not for S100? What are we?
JK.
No, it is S100.
S100 is positive in Rose-Idorfman. We know that. Okay. Let's do it. You got to review that, guys. Okay. So we have another process over here. Oh my goodness, red, white, and blue from the background. And here we have these cells inside histiocytes not being destroyed. There's plasma cells in them too. What do we call that?
Emplerocesis.
Emperipoesis. They're being in peripost. And your diagnosis is?
Rose-Idorfman.
Rose-Idorfman.
Stains
And
positive
how will
for
the
S100.
S100 stain?
Positive.
Positive. Okay. Now, in this case, because someone mentioned this diagnosis already, notice how we don't have the numerous
This
amount
is the reticular histiocytoma with the
This is the
two-toned.
reticular histiocytoma, yes. And notice how there's a not two-toned, but two-toned appearance to these histiocytes. That's one. And then the other thing to notice, so two-tone appearance, is each of these histiocytes look like they're in their own lacuna. They're separate from each other. Whereas in entities like Rose-Idorfman, the histiocytes tend to blend in and merge with each other. It's almost like a pseudo-syncytial-like pattern. Sometimes you don't know where the first histiocyte ends and the other begins. But in this case, it's very clear where each histiocyte ends and the other begins. That's one clue. If this is a solitary lesion, what is this associated with?
Internal organ malignancy.
If this is a solitary lesion.
Oh, solitary. I forget, but I know if it's multiple, it's with arthritis, mutilating arthritis.
Does anyone know what it's associated with if it's a solitary lesion? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. If it's associated with multiple, yes, mutilating arthritis or internal
And
organ
it's usually in kids if it's solitary, right?
Well, that I'll look up. You can, if solid, I don't know if solitary reticulocytomas are more, they may very well be more common in children than adults, depending on how you do this. But the point is, you can have them in adults, you can have them in children, a solitary reticulocytoma, and if it's just one, it means nothing. It's of no clinical significance. there's multiple, you have to think of things. In this case, another histiocytic process. And we also have, sorry?
JXG.
JXG, very good. You notice the 2-ton, not 2-tone, but 2-ton giant cells for JXG. Are most cases of JXGs that look quote unquote JXGs in adults or children, by the way?
Children?
Actually, my experience, the most I see are in adults, but they may be more common in children. It's just that we do more biopsies on adults than children, that's all. But most, we then just call them xanthogranulomas instead of juvenile xanthogranulomas because it's just not appropriate to put the juvenile in there. But things that look, I can tell you, neoplasms that look like this, most of them that I see come from adults. Now that may very well be just a selection bias. We biopsy adults. We have a higher threshold biopsy children. Okay, very good. Now, some quick rapid fire things. For mycosis fungoides, what type of testing do we do for gene rearrangement studies?
Like CD3, CD4, CD8?
Is that a gene rearrangement study?
No.
So what type of testing do you do for gene rearrangement study?
Like a T-cell receptor.
T-cell receptor, okay, so what type of test is that?
PCR?
PCR, yes. As it's not FISH, PCR. And if a tumor stains positive for the melanocytic markers and the smooth muscle markers, what type of tumor are you thinking about? Melanocytic and muscle, smooth muscle. PEComa. Okay. If it's highlighting for all the melanocytic markers with the translocation, you're thinking clear cell sarcoma. Where do keratinocytes store their melanin, by the way?
Trick question. Like it say like it doesn't, they don't store it, it gets deposited into them?
They do store
like
it.
from neighboring melanosomes?
The melanosomes from the melanocytes deliver the melanin into the keratinocytes, and they actually do have an organelle where they store it, believe it or not. One of those new findings in dermatopathology, if you're keeping up with the research. It's a modified lysosome called a melanokerosome. But the lysosome is modified. It does not digest the melanin. It just stores it. That's it. Why you would be asked that question, I have no idea, but you might. What else might you have? Do you know what Hashimoto-Pritzker is?
That's a type of reticulohistiocytosis.
Histiocytosis, self-healing histiocytosis. Okay. Self-resolving histiocytosis of children. You can see in pediatric population. S100 is?
Like
S100.
Mesenchymal cell marker.
Wait, what?
What's your question? Sorry, Avi.
Yeah,
How
what's
does
your question?
S100
Are you
stain the histio?
oh in self-healing reticular
Yeah.
histiocytosis?
Yes.
It's a Langerhans cell histiocytosis. So it's S100 is negative.
I think we
In-
positive.
in
It's
one-
classic.
I don't know.
Okay, so S100 protein is negative. First of all, if you're saying it's a Langerhans cell histiocytosis, the S100 should be positive. Because Langerhans cells stain positive for S100,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's why I said positive first. But is it not
So
a
it's
Langerhans cell?
It's a non-Langerhans cell.
Self-healing?
It's congenital self-healing reticular histiocytosis.
Oh, I thought it was.
The incidence, well, let's look this up then. Congenital self-healing reticular histiocytosis. Maybe I'm just because Langerhans cell or not. If I'm wrong.
It's
What?
a type of Langerhans.
Oh, it is a type of Langerhans.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, then it will stain. So it should stain positive for S100 then.
Yeah.
Then I stand corrected if that's true. Okay, so that but know that then the congenital if it's a type of Langerhans cell histiocytosis, it should stain positive for S100. But know your S100s, your CD1As, your Langerin, and what each one stands for. So line it up with your Rosai-Dorfman, your intermediate cell histiocytosis,
Which is not an LCH.
which is not a, yes, correct.
So that's
And-
gonna stay negative for CD1A, CD207, and S100.
Intermediate cell,
Oh, intermediate is positive for S100.
yeah, so that's hence the name intermediate, right? But then your what about histiocytosis X?
No clue.
So what is letitia? So, well, I actually don't think they may not. I don't remember a question on histiocytosis X. Pseudoepithelioma is hyperplasia with pus. Your differential, you know that?
Here come big green
Okay.
leafy vegetables.
Okay, good. You're gonna look for them because there might be some scans that you're gonna find. Any last minute questions
Can
about?
you just, Rosai Dorfman is only positive for S100, negative for CD1A and 207, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Intermediate cell histiocytosis would be positive S100,
S100.
S100.
And
Rosai
CD,
Dorfman.
wait,
So
intermediate cell is
I
also
see it.
positive for one of the CD.
I think
CDs.
ICH is positive for everything except the Langering, I think.
It's not positive for Langren, negative for Langren, intermediate cell histiocytosis. But Rosai Dorfman is only positive for S100. It's negative for CD1A, negative for Langren.
Is it
So-
positive for CD? It's positive for CD68, Rosai Dorfman?
Yes, it's a histiocytic process. All the histiocytic processes are going to be positive for CD68. That's just a histiocyte marker. What's your other histiocyte marker, by the way?
Something 56.
63.
163. CD163. So, by the way, what's one other histiocytic process that's positive for S100 and positive for CD68 and CD163? Granular cell tumor, right? The granular cell tumor is a histiocytic tumor that's lysosoming up the nerves. So they stain positive for S100 and also stain positive for CD68, CD163. Okay, any other questions, last minute questions about the Dermpath core? Now's your chance.
Thank you so much, Avi, for these reviews and for giving us videos on Monday. We really appreciate you and thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Well, if there's no last minute questions for the Dermpath core, listen, all of you, good luck. You are going to kill it.
Thanks, Avi.
Thank you, Avi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Avi.
All right, guys, go kill it. Kill your core. Crush it.
Great job,
Right.
second years. You're gonna do
Good
great.
job, guys. You guys did great. Thank you very much. Take care.